Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Your Place or Mine. Your Place or Mine is an American romantic comedy that tells the story of Debbie and Peter, a pair of people who hooked up in 2003 but never went further with things and stayed as friends for the next 20 years. During this time, the two of them followed different life directions, neither of which turned out the way they wanted. Debbie decides to go from Los Angeles to New York to attend a course while visiting Peter, but plans change when the babysitter is unable to look after her son Jack. Peter volunteers to look after Jack while she's gone, resulting in the two swapping places to stay and each learning about the other more, which potentially leads to their friendship becoming something more. Maybe I had high expectations for this due to the talent of its leading stars, but this was such a disappointing rom-com to watch. It's not the worst one I've seen, but its complete absence of romantic tension or entertaining comedy failed to do any justice for the genre. To start, the main characters aren't very interesting. Reese Witherspoon plays Debbie, and I appreciated the energy that she brought to the role, but in the end she's little more than another overbearing single mom who has a hard time falling in love, and she's written as lazily as one could expect. Her dream to go from being a bookkeeper to an editor is never expanded on all that much, as the movie seems more interested in showing her micromanage her son's life in every way. Her lack of characterization and her obnoxious helicopter parenting made it difficult for me to care about anything she went through. Things aren't much better with the male lead Peter, who's played by Ashton Kutcher. Again, credit where it's due, Kutcher tries his best to inject personality into the role, and I like the way he delivers his comedic dialogue, but his character isn't much better than Debbie. This is because he's almost the exact same in terms of development, only this time he's given up on his dream job of being a writer to being some random business executive. Apart from his unusual obsession with the classic rock band The Cars, there's nothing unique about him. Because the two leads are equally uninteresting, this leaves their relationship dynamic just as boring. At first, it starts off okay and even believable as far as them being close friends, and they have great chemistry even though they're rarely on screen together, but there's one problem that keeps it from working, and that's the near complete lack of romantic tension. Throughout most of the movie, the two speak to each other exclusively as friends, and their bond never grows in any sort of direction to indicate that it could change until the last 45 minutes or so. Even when they learn more about each other by living in the other's homes, it comes across more as an interesting fact as opposed to a revelation that changes everything about them. It also doesn't help that, like I said a moment ago, the two rarely appear together on screen. The majority of their interactions take place on their cell phones, which makes an already awkward romance arc even more so when they're not spending any sort of quality time together. There's no real spark between them or any sort of proper build-up leading to their inevitable reunion. And when it did happen, I was just like, meh. The movie tries to get around the distance between them by using these split-screen edits that make it seem like they're with each other. It helps a little bit in the beginning when things are just getting established, but the movie becomes way too reliant on these edits to the point that it becomes distracting. And when the movie finally does get the romance going, it's too late. Debbie spends more time in her own romantic subplot with another character in the movie who isn't Peter, and while that one was just as generic, at least a proper sequence of events happened between them, whereas between her and Peter, there's virtually nothing. It seemed like the movie was more interested in their own individual subplots as opposed to building the romance they were supposed to have. Subplots are okay to have as long as they don't get in the way of the main story, but not only do they get in the way, but they don't leave much of an impact either. Debbie spends a lot of time doing nothing other than hanging out with some random girl named Minka and doesn't even go to class very much, which is why she's supposed to be in New York. Meanwhile, Peter barely has an effect or teaches any sort of life lesson to Debbie's son Jack in LA. So in both cases, I found myself wondering why they were even in their respective places. I like the fish out of water scenarios and shared house concepts that the movie goes for, but the movie doesn't do enough with them. The characters feel like they're treading water over the course of the story. So whenever Peter takes Jack out to a hockey game, or Debbie's going out on a date with her other love interest, and some sort of lesson is supposed to be gleaned from them, there's no real weight to it. With such little effort behind the romance and story in general, it's no surprise that the comedy is at the same level of bad. It mostly consists of weakly delivered lines that fail to generate laughs and cringeworthy toilet humor and slapstick that's just annoying. Nowhere is this exemplified better than the hippie gardener character Zen, whose sole purpose in existing is seemingly just to tend to Debbie's garden while he has his own gardener at his place. Trying to make sense of this is a pointless effort, especially with how awful and even creepy his jokes are. Aside from the bad comedy, the movie does have somewhat of a positive tone to it, which is fitting for the rom-com genre. The upbeat music, variety of LA and New York environments, and some of the activities everyone engages in were pleasant enough for me to grit my way through the bad writing and story. But when one gets right down to it, there's just nothing to really recommend about it. It's another generic friends become lovers story with supporting characters dropping hints saying that one would be good for the other. It's been done to death, and to see the movie approach this already tired concept with even less enthusiasm than those who did it before is frankly a shame. And that's without getting into its basic message about following one's heart and being true to themselves. This would be fine if Debbie and Peter actually bothered exploring their passions in a meaningful way, but the movie is too unfocused with what it wants to say with both its themes and romance, and that makes it even more boring to watch. Overall, Your Place or Mine is a subpar rom-com that almost completely lacks any sort of charm or memorability. If you like rom-coms and you're looking to watch something predictable and generic, you might enjoy it, but personally I think there's way better options out there. I can't believe this movie was able to get big-name actors to perform in it, because it plays out just like every other uninspired Hallmark Channel movie out there. Its lack of romance and unfunny comedy leave it in a bad place, and one I personally can't recommend getting involved with. What did you think about this movie? Did you also find it boring to watch, or were you able to appreciate it more than I did? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Your Place or Mine. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Japanese horror movie, Remember. Bye bye!